Do they know how to unmute their phone? I'm not sure how that works, but I know that.
813, if you're listening, can you please call us back? Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I think that I know that the Earth is going through a lot of changes, and I think that the Earth is very similar to us in many ways, because we're kind of going with this through her, and we all hold the same vibrations, similarly to the third dimension and things like that. But what do you say to people who are in situations like people who are done with the religion, but yet they are still stuck and partial of the religion? What advice could you give to them if they are beyond that but can't move beyond that right now?
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't quite understand the question. You're talking about people and their relationship to their religion?
Yeah.
Okay, and if they're stuck in the religion, did you say?
Yes, but they are their consciousness is much beyond that, but they can't let go of their religion. Like, they still have certain ties to it.
Okay, we never ever know what anybody else's life plan is, and everybody is in their right and perfect place. And so what is happening now, and this is just because we can't judge and we can't guess, and we look and we think from our perspective it looks like this, but it might be something entirely different. And what happens is often is that there are a lot of very powerful light beings that have volunteered to come into this physical plane and to connect with the various world religions, because a lot of the world religions have been very distorted by the lower human ego of humanity, and they've been used to manipulate and control people, and they have a lot of misinformation and what's called disinformation, deliberate misinformation, so that people will be fear-based and connected with it at a fear level. And I'm not saying that's true of all religions, but I know that we all know that is certainly a factor of what's going on. So it might be that these souls that your friends and people that you know that have a much higher consciousness, that are really connected and feel drawn to stay in their religion, are there because they are raising up and shifting the consciousness of the people that are locked into that religion. And this is why, we need to be integrated into mainstream humanity as we awaken and as we move forward. This is why in the 1960s, the hippies were trying to commit to, they were saying love, not war, and had this wonderful shift of consciousness. And they were trying to create what they called communes, where they would all come together and live in the woods and not be hassled by the outer world, greed and selfishness and all of those kinds of things. Well, the communes didn't work because spiritually awakened people aren't supposed to cloister themselves away in these protected environments. They're to integrate themselves into mainstream humanity. For instance, in Tucson, where I'm from, we have, now it's called Raytheon, it used to be Hughes, but it's a company that builds missiles and bombs for war. And it's one of the best paying companies and the best benefits in Tucson, a higher source of income. And when I was doing my counseling, I was a marriage and family counselor for 20 years. When I was doing my counseling, people would come to me and they would say, I feel so guilty, I feel so terrible. Here I am working at Hughes and making these missiles and these bombs for war, but I have to support my family. I don't have any other way, any other source of income that will compare to this, that will help me with this. And I said, well, you're in your right and perfect place. I said, imagine what would happen if the only people making these bombs had a consciousness to be willing to be warmongers. I said, you, on the contrary, you can be working here. You can ask Archangel Michael to put an invincible force field of protection around every bomb you make, every bomb that is being made there, so that it'll never be used for war and it'll never harm any part of life. And you can transmute what's going on. If we work with the IRS, we can shift the consciousness. If we work with the banking systems, we can shift the consciousness out of the greed and selfishness and the dog-eat-dog to rather coming up with a win-win situation so that there is a flow of abundance into everybody's life so that everybody can have what they need. Right now, we have all of the technology we need so that there shouldn't be a hungry person on the planet. There shouldn't be a person without shelter, without health care, without comfort and security and safety. And the only reason there isn't is because of people manipulating and controlling from their fear-based egos to block and resist and to prevent those things from happening. So the light workers, the awakening souls, just like all of you young people who are powerful light beings that have volunteered to come and help, need to be integrated into all of these places. Religions, schools, colleges, industry, corporations. We need to shift the consciousness at a grassroots level. So that's why people are where they are.
So, Heaven here on the chat room was asking, what do you do to stay centered?
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier. That was the same question that someone mentioned earlier. Invoking Archangel Michael to put a force field of light around you and to fill that circle of white light with peace, with love, with harmony and balance. Then focus on light things, focus on positive things. If something's negative going on in your life, look at it, observe it as an objective observer, but say, what do I want instead of that? And then start focusing on what you want to create, working with the holy breath, breathing in deeply, saying I as you reach into the higher realms. As you exhale, say am, and bring that light from the heart of God into the physical plane, flooding the earth, and do things in your life that make you feel joyous, that you know are adding to the light of the world.
So we have again area code 138. Let's see if now they 838. Are you here?
Yes.
Where?
Yes, I don't know what was happening to my phone, but I guess I have a question and an observation. Being a much older person, I have an awareness from the news and from talking to friends and acquaintances and, everyone. I'm just shocked at the number of adults who are on drugs. I'm talking about prescription drugs. A lot of the pain medications, a lot of tranquilizers, etc. And then, of course, going to the younger people, too, the amount of drug use that is going on out there. What would you suggest that each one of us do to change that or reach them in some way? Words won't do it, of course. And so what would you suggest we all do to help these people who are so addicted to drugs, many of them not even realizing they're addicted?
Right. And it's not surprising that they are. I mean, how many television commercials do you see promoting drugs, talking people into going to drugs? The pharmaceutical industry has totally infiltrated the medical association. The doctors are promoting drugs. The doctors, everybody, that's the fastest, quickest answer because of the money involved. And so what we have to do, it's important to know that fundamental change never begins at the top. It begins at a grassroots level. And what one of my favorite quotes from Buckminster Fuller is that in order to change something, you don't try to change the existing model. You create a new model and make the old one obsolete. So what we need to do is start empowering people, and I think some of that's happening now as people are trying to deal with the rampant obesity and diabetes and things like that, to shift the consciousness toward health and well-being, to accept responsibility for taking care of yourself, to know that there's not going to be a quick pill or something that's just going to solve all of the problems for you, to try to find healthier, more holistic ways of dealing with that kind of thing. Now, in addition to that, because all life is one, all life is interconnected, we have the ability to invoke the God Self, the I Am presence of every man, woman, and child on the planet. Now, their I am presence will only work in alignment with their divine plan and their highest good. But if those of us in the physical plane who are one with those souls invoke their I am presence, it gives that aspect of their divinity permission to intervene in their lives. So we can ask the I am presence of every person to invoke Archangel Michael to put a force field of protection around each one, to raise them up in consciousness, to help them perceive that there are alternative, healthier ways to deal with the physical challenges that they're going through, and to ask their God self to magnetize into their lives the people, the holistic healers, the natural doctors and things like that that have alternatives to just drugs, which is what is happening. This is an environmental catastrophe that is happening in the drug industry at this particular time because they are prescribing so many drugs, and no matter how much they have individually tested these drugs, nobody has tested what these drugs will do in combination with each other in somebody's body. And though that's individual anyway, what affects one person is another. So we are in uncharted waters in this toxic cocktail that we are giving people and people are giving themselves. So what we have to do is shift the consciousness. We're not going to get the pharmaceutical industry to say, okay, I'm going to stop prescribing so many drugs. We're not going to get the medical professions to start doing that. We have to shift the consciousness so that people say, wait a minute, I'm not willing to do this to myself anymore. So we start at the bottom, invoking their protection, asking their God self to take command of their thoughts, words, actions, and feelings, and asking their God self to magnetize the right and perfect people into their lives that will help them perceive a better way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Megan, do you have another question?
Yes. What can you suggest to our listeners so they can become more intuitive, become more in touch with upcoming events in our world?
Okay. Actually, we were never supposed to lose the ability to stay in touch with the heavenly realms. And it isn't so important that we don't need to be psychic and foretell everything that's going to be happening. What we need to do is be able to reconnect with our God self, our I am presence, and in turn, through our God self, connect with the company of heaven. These are our sisters and brothers, as I mentioned earlier, that have evolved to a higher level of consciousness. And these are beings who are actually guiding and directing us according to our highest good. And they're our teachers and our guidance that is coming from the realms that will help us know how to handle the challenges of our lives, giving us tools, opportunities to help. So the most effective way of doing that is by connecting with your God self, invoking that assistance, meditating, putting yourself in a force field of protection, asking your God self to connect, your I am presence, to connect with the beings of light, asking those beings of light, and you can call them by name. They're certainly all of the wonderful beings that we know that are associated with the world religions, Jesus, Mother Mary, Moses, Mohammed, all of the Buddha, all of the beings that are associated with the world religions. But there's also Archangel Michael, all of the angels. And if you don't know names of beings, you can invoke them according to whatever divine quality. You can invoke, for instance, angels of healing, angels of divine